Welcome to another episode of High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg. And in this show, this is where we talk about real business, real life, and more importantly, real situations. Because you've heard me say it before, I'm a big believer that whatever you do as an entrepreneur or in your job or in your business, we're all on a journey, I believe. And I believe that that journey can take many, many different forms, fashions. It can take a passion of what you do. And that could be business, sports, athletics. And, I've had a lot of guests on that have talked about their different passions. And, one is not right or wrong for the other one. And I think it's important to understand that whatever you do, and again, if you do real estate or business or you're a speaker or you're an athlete, it really is the business of you. And I think a lot of times, a lot of people have a challenge understanding that when you have the business of you, if you're the brand of what you do, you could be a great brand. You could be a great person. But if you don't have the team that's supporting you and you don't have the team that's behind you, how do you actually take it to market and do it repetitiously over and over again to perfection to actually monetize it, to keep going day after day, week after week, year after year? So as you know, in prior episodes, I had James Lawrence on, the Iron Cowboy, who's famous for his athletic ability of doing Ironmans and doing the 50 for 50, and then the Conquer 100. And hopefully I got these right. If not, I'm sure I'll be corrected in a second. But I was really curious when I had him on the show of understanding, his drive, his passion. But then I was kind of curious, well, who runs your company? Like, how does the business of James Lawrence actually operate? Well, today I have the CEO of Iron Cowboy, and it is his daughter. And we're going to talk to her about how she is able to run her dad's business as CEO, but also how to separate those two from family and watching your dad go through some amazing triumphs and I'm sure some painful moments, but to still remember that she's running a business that has to be monetized and it's got to be run correctly. So I have Lucy Lawrence. So Lucy, thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So tell everyone hopefully I didn't butcher that too badly, but tell everybody, what you do, what your position is, and how you help your dad.
Okay, so yes, my name is Lucy Lawrence. I am 19. I graduated high school last year, which is what part of makes my job so cool is that the first year that I was doing it and that I put on the Conquer 100 campaign, I was actually a senior in high school. And so now what I do is I basically manage everything at the same time as doing everything. It's a little bit tricky because obviously my dad, James, is the face of the brand. So I can't necessarily create the content, but I do a lot of planning for that, for the social media. And then also his main job is a keynote speaker. So a big part of my job is booking engagements, travel, contracts, everything like that, coordinating the sponsors, the merchandise. And we have mental coaching courses, and we're working on a retreat that we're going to put on in the near future, and just a lot of big programs, adventures, and then also little random things like social media.
Okay, so I've just got to ask a couple questions based on what you said. So you're 19 years old, right? When
Yes.
you were younger, you're already young, so we'll just say younger. Did you say like, this is what I want to do when I get out of high school? Like, I want to be side by side with my dad, running the business, and basically as a CEO, I mean, technically you're telling him what he needs to do. I don't know how it works with you guys, but technically, I mean, you are in charge and you are making decisions for his brand and for who he is. How did you come to that decision, first of all, at such a young age?
So ever since he's been Iron Cowboy, I have always wanted to work for him. So I remember he did the 50 when I was 12. And so right after the 50 is when business kind of started getting bigger, right? We had the book and the documentary and everything started rolling. And I just begged him every day, please let me work for you. And as I got older, when I was 16, I was telling him, I'm old enough to have a real job now. Will you please hire me? He would always say no. And it was so annoying. And we've had problems with the CEOs in the past. They just haven't really hit the bar. They would admit, oh yeah, I haven't worked in 3 weeks. And it was just a struggle. And the Conquer 100 was coming up. and he was desperate. He was so frustrated with the last guy. He fired him, and he said, shoot, it was December of 2020. We did the Conquer 100. We started March 2021. And so it was December, and he was panicking. He had this project coming up, and he didn't have anyone to run the business. And so he came to me and said, will you please run my business? I'll hire you. And first I was so bothered. And this is why. 2 days before, I was looking for a new job. And I previously, when I was a junior in high school, I was working with a tech company called Brainstorm. I was an intern, and I worked on the recruiting team, and that was the job I was working. And during COVID, they had to let me go because they weren't hiring people, right? So they got rid of my whole department. And so they came to me a few months later and said, hey, we're ready to reopen the branch. Will you come work for us? But they could only give me 10 hours a week. So I was like, I'm graduating. I kind of need a real job. And so I told my dad, I was like, I'm going to take this job if you don't want to hire me. This is your last chance. He goes, no, I don't need you. So I get 2 jobs. And then 2 days later, he comes to me, hey, I need you to work for me. So I was so bothered. But I took it, obviously, because this was what I'd been wanting to do forever. So I worked those 3 jobs for a while, up until like the first 2 weeks into the Conquer 100. But that's how I ended up getting this job, because my dad was in pure panic and didn't have another choice.
Well, and I got to imagine, first of all, your dad's training for some life-altering event,
Yeah.
the Conquer 100. It's not like he's running a marathon. I mean, he's, so how, well, he is running a marathon, but he's running a lot of them.
Marathon plus.
Yes. So, obviously he's got to train and be mentally tough on the training side. But again, he's got a business to run. At the end of the day, this is a business, and it's got to make money. And he's got, I'm sure he's got people interested, sponsors, and other things that are expecting a result from him. So I'm assuming that as that role, he's not just an athlete. He's got to look at all angles. And I'm sure hearing that people aren't doing their job when he's sitting there in the pool at 4 a.m. or whatever he trains has got to be pretty. It's got to be some things that you got to make sure do not take you off of your concentration. And so, how did you get into the role of being able to alleviate and make sure that he knew that you had things taken care of?
So just some background. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty reliable. I do a good job.
I would imagine if he hired you as a CEO, I would imagine you're reliable.
Yeah. Like something that I take a lot of pride in is that I graduated high school with my 2-year degree in college. So I graduated high school with my associate's degree, which is even cooler because I did that during the Conquer 100. That was my senior year. And so it was very chaotic. But he had just seen my room was always clean. I always had my chores done. Like everything I did was perfectly in line, straight A's, except for one semester when I had a concussion. It just destroyed my GPA. But other than that, just the history. And he told me, he said, if you do a good job with this project, I'll hire you full time after the project. And so it was my trial run, and I'm really high strung, and I'm a perfectionist. And so he had a lot of hope that I wanted to keep the job enough that I would do a good job holding everything together during the project. Mm-hmm. Also, because he is a really hard person to understand. Like the way he does things, he has his own way. It's really complicated if you don't know him. So the fact that I was family made him feel more comfortable, because he knew that I was going to know what he wanted and how he liked things, and that if he was having an off day, I would know how to handle that, how to handle the business. And also on top of that, I'm kind of feisty. So he had high hopes that I'd be able to hold my ground with people that were going to be difficult.
So, okay. So that's kind of going into my next question. So you're his daughter, right?
Yes.
And now you're basically, you were running his business, the brand of James Lawrence Iron Cowboy. So when you say this is not a good idea for the brand, I don't like this decision, how much power do you have on making that? Ultimately, is he like, no, we're doing it? Or, because he's a solo athlete. So solo athletes in general, they like to make their decisions, as now, obviously he's got a team of people, but is there that father-daughter, like, I got this, I know more than you, or how do you guys navigate those waters?
So he lets me basically make all the decisions. He lets me, like, even if there's a couple projects that he does with an external partner that I don't like have a huge part in, but he still always asks my opinion. And we were going to launch a project, but the timing is weird, but he put a lot of money into it. He didn't know if we should shut it down or not. And even a big decision like that, he came to me and asked, what do you think I should do? And a lot of times, if things aren't going the way he wants, sometimes he'll try and do it the way he wants. But me and my mom like to explain he's an athlete trying to be a businessman, so he needs that help, right? Mm-hmm. And so he'll a lot of times try to do things himself, and then he'll just say, okay, this isn't working, and just hand it off. So I have a lot of power. I would definitely say if I told him I have a really bad feeling about this, he would take it.
That's good. Now, how does this work? And I'm sure during your tenure of working with your dad, I'm sure there's been times when he's been hurting or in pain or physically unable to maybe do an event or something, but there's sponsorships, there's money on the line. How does that conversation go where you're like, Dad, I know that, you're hurting or in pain, but we got paid a lot of money. We need to show up for this thing. Like, how does it, or do you guys have these kinds of conversations?
So we do have those types of conversations. He is a person that can push through anything, but he wants someone to take care of him like a little baby. So if you can just nurture, my mom plays a huge role in this. Usually he'll come to me and then I relay the information to my mom, and then she comes full circle and kind of nurtures him, takes care of him. And then we just kind of talk him into making the decision for himself to keep going.
Okay.
And he likes to do things best when it's his idea. So we just have to convince him that something is his idea, like to continue going, and then he's happy to do it.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, obviously he is someone who's driven. He doesn't need to be pushed, but you may need to push him in a different direction than he may be seeing. So you want it to be his idea when you push him in that direction. But yeah, I can see, I don't see him as being someone who's just saying like, I don't think I'm going to do it today because I've got an issue or a pain or a joint or something. He's doing what he needs to do. You just want him to do what's best for the business, and it's got to be his idea. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And it also helps when we use his words to him. So if he doesn't want to do something, we'll pull this quote out of our pocket that he uses in his presentation. And then he's like, oh, shoot, that's true. I said that. So then that brings him conscious to how important the decision is, I guess.
So it's kind of like, hey, Dad, you can't be a hypocrite. Like you say this, you've got to live up to it. That would be tough. I'd be like, oh man, they're using that against me.
It gets him every time.
That's funny. So what happens now? Like you're at an event and maybe people have seen you when you were a young child and growing up in your teenage years, and now they see you as a CEO and you walk in and they're like, I need to talk to your dad. How do you deal with that? Because you're younger and you're kind of making your bones in the business and you're getting your licks in. How do you handle that when somebody tries to walk past you to get to your dad, or does your dad boomerang them back to you, or how does that work?
So this actually happened a lot during the Conquer 100. There were a couple partners and stuff that were so difficult. I'm not gonna give the details, but there were a lot of really difficult situations. And a lot of it was because I said no. And so people would get mad that I said no, and they'd try to go around me to my dad. And he's like, well, you have to talk to Lucy. And so I'll say no first. And then if they have his personal cell phone or something, they'll text him and he'll just ignore them or say, sorry, you have to talk to Lucy. But at an event, if I just say no and I stand my ground, people are like, okay. Because they don't expect me to say no. So it surprises them.
Yeah, no, I get it. So let me ask you this: how does it work at home? The family life. You guys are, as a unit, as a family, and I'm guessing, are you guys competitive? Do you guys kind of disconnect from that? How does that work on a normal daily basis?
So it's pretty funny. None of us. So there's 5 kids. Mm-hmm. I'm 19. I have an 8-year-old sister, a 16-year-old sister, a 14-year-old sister, and a 12-year-old brother. And none of us have a competitive bone in our body.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, it's so weird. And my mom's not competitive either. And so that might be like she was the one at home with us growing up. And it might be because my mom would always say to us, well, who cares if you're not good at that? Like, who cares if they're better than you at that? Or, well, it doesn't matter if you lost, like, it's just a game and stuff. And so I guess that was just drilled into our brains. But all of us, we just kind of we just want to have fun together. I don't know. Like, none of us are really in sports. Like, we've all just played rec center sports and stuff. So.
Does anybody want to follow after dad? Is that an agenda for anybody? Or is it like, that's dad's dad, and he does what he does? And different person at work than at home, kind of?
Yes. So a few points with that. One, the only person that's kind of like that, my 12-year-old brother wants to play professional lacrosse as of like a month ago. This is a new thing for him.
Okay.
And then second, we always joke about him being like all tough and stuff, because at home, like if we go to Taco Bell and we don't bring him home some, he'll be upset and be like, not really upset, but he's like, you guys, you went to Taco Bell without me? And he has like his sweats, one leg is up to his knee, and he's wearing Crocs, and he's just like a weird dad to us. So all the time, if someone says something like, you can do it, we say to each other, oh my gosh, are you the Iron Cowboy? And it's just like, but he knows we love him and we support him and stuff. And we try to make sure that we're like, no, we work hard because of your example too. But it really is just like a big joke. We always call each other, oh my gosh, are you Iron Cowboy James? Like, even with our cousins and everything.
That's funny. Let me ask you, as you went through your dad doing these, not just the Conquer 100 and the other ones, what kind of lessons did you learn as not only someone who to be determined, but from the business model of, it's your formidable years, you're growing up, you're seeing this, your dad's breaking world records. What kind of lessons did you walk away with?
So one of the biggest ones is I like to use the line, there's always a way. And it's because through these projects, all of them were just a disaster in their own way. For example, on the 50, this is my mom's story, but the project manager just walked out on the project. And so my mom just had to save the entire project. But she wasn't part of any of the planning or anything. And it was just a huge mess. But everything always figures itself out. When there's a problem, there's always a way to solve it. For example, on the 50, when we were headed east, we were losing time, but we figured it out, or with the brace on the Conquer 100, my dad was injured. He was wearing a brace. He thought his leg was going to snap. But the fact that he might have talked about this, but the world leader in this carbon shin plate brace just lived up the street from us. And just the fact that like all these things always just happen to line up, there's always a way to find a solution to things, which is, I feel like, so impactful, because now people, they're like, oh, it's too hard to do anything.
Right.
I see that among my peers, and it's really strange. So I'm really grateful for that mindset.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, you've got obviously friends your age bracket. And I'm guessing the majority of them are not as driven as you and maybe your siblings. So how do you associate with them? Like, do you have friends your age that you just can disconnect and go hang out at the mall with them and have these conversations? Or are you just like, you know what, this is the path I'm taking, I'm focused, I'm driven, and I'm going down this, trajectory of life?
So right now it's kind of a weird time for me. A full-time summer block is 2 classes. And right now I'm taking 6, and I'm also working 9 to 5. And so I'm kind of just in this zone. I'm going to graduate. I'm really excited. I'm going to graduate with my bachelor's degree in December.
Wow.
So I'll graduate with my bachelor's degree 5 weeks after my 20th birthday. So I'm very excited. So I'm kind of just in this zone where I'm just trying to finish by the end of the year, just cranking it out so I can be done with college forever. But I also do, when I'm with people, for example, I'm very religious. And so I go to a church activity every Monday night, and I try and totally separate from work and everything, because my mind is so busy during that time. I'll go crazy if I don't separate.
Right.
And like, for me personally, if other people aren't as driven, like, that's their life, not mine. So if we can just come together and have fun when we're both doing our thing, that's awesome.
So let me ask you this now. So moving forward, you're going to get out of college and you're going to be full-time in the Iron Cowboy. And I remember I asked your dad, I said, so, a lot of times for example, when an astronaut goes to the moon or when an Olympic athlete wins an Olympic medal, where do you go from there? Right. So I asked your dad, I'm like, so you did the Conquer 100. What's next? The 200, the 400. And he said, no, that's when you start, coaching people and doing mentoring and doing these other organizations that he explained the business side of it. So what is your vision for the business of Iron Cowboy? Because, look, we're all human. So we have so many miles in us at some point and so many runs and swims and everything. And eventually he's going to be a mentor, coach, trainer like he is now. Where do you see the business model going from here?
I know that I want to do what he wants with the business. I want to take what he wants and make it work. And the direction that he wants to take right now is he wants to move away from triathlon and move into mindset. Triathlon used to be just people who would wear their jean shorts and a t-shirt and they'd wing this bike ride and it was all fun and games. They had like mustaches, long hair, everyone was just there for the ride. And now it's become this rich sport. Everyone's really fast and it's just not the same. And it's interesting talking to triathletes. They live it's like this whole weird bubble. It's the weirdest culture ever. And so he is so done with it. And he wants to move on from triathletes and just move into helping people that want to change their life, whether they're 60, 25, anything in between. He just wants to help people that are stuck find their way out of it. And so I know he wants to do live courses and also courses that people can purchase and just watch on their own time. And so we really just want to tailor the business to reach all different kinds of people that are looking for self-improvement in all aspects of their life.
Let me ask you this. How do you think your dad differentiates himself? Obviously, his record stands by itself, of course. But how would he differentiate himself of, let's say, mindset from a Navy SEAL, someone else who's, climbed Mount Everest, or is he different? Is there something that drives people like him to be the best they could be? And like, how would you, if I said, well, how's your dad different than Jocko or anyone else? How would you explain that?
So there's two main points. One is kind of the obvious one, is that he's the only one of him, right? LeBron James, so cool. But how many NBA players are there, right? Navy SEAL, so cool. How many are there? A bunch, right? Mm-hmm. Even like an Olympic gold medalist, how many Olympic gold medalists are there? There is only one Iron Cowboy. Mm-hmm. Second, the other thing that sets him apart is that he's a dad. A lot of the people that do triathlon and stuff and other hard things, so many of them are single guys without families, or single women, I guess. But the fact that he's a family guy really resonates with people. And also the fact that us kids have been involved in what we're doing, have been involved. And all of us so far have turned out okay. And so people see that and they say, okay, what's working, right? And so all of that kind of, and also he's been married for 21 years. The divorce rates are so high right now. So, right, dad, family, husband, athlete, businessman, put it all together in one. That's proof that what he's doing is working in all different areas of life, I guess, which is a cool package.
No, I completely agree. I always tell people, I think there's three levels or three balances. I hate to say balance. I don't think there's such a thing, but three focuses. I would say it's health, wealth, and relationships. And so, you see people that, are ultra rich and they have a heart attack the day they cash their check. You see people that are in great shape, but they live in their car because they don't make any money. And so they, and I believe in focus. I'm a big believer of being focused in what you're doing, but I also believe in pivoting and understand that you got to pivot in life and you focus on something and then you've got to focus on something else. Like a stool is not going to balance on just one leg. One even balance on two legs. So you need three, in my opinion. And to me, those are the three. And it sounds like your dad values all of those equally. And he takes the time, when he's training, right? And when he's not training, he's with the family and Taco Bell and all that stuff.
Taco Bell.
So let me ask, when you were, my understanding is, I think it was the Conquer 100, that the whole family, you guys always went with him. I mean, you guys were the traveling family throughout all of these events. Is that right? Every single day you guys were together?
So that was the 50. So the 50 was 50 full distance triathlons in 50 days in 50 states. So we all moved into a motorhome, and we would, as a fam, like he'd be doing his racing, but we would just go to gift shops and museums and aquariums during the day, and then we'd drive during the night in the motorhome. And then the Conquer 100, he did the same route every day, and the home base was our home. So we were all here because we lived here.
Got it. Okay. What did you guys learn from I know you were young during the 50, but what kind of things did you learn on that? Obviously you got to see America, which is awesome. But what other things did you guys learn? Like about each other as a family, as a unit, as your dad. Like, I mean, I'm sure, here's my thing. I've always realized, and I travel a lot because being an airline pilot, I've been all over the world. My son's been in 20 something countries. And I've noticed that he gets to see a lot of things that most people don't get to see. And because of that, I think he's a much different person than the average because, we've been in, Hong Kong and Philippines and, down in South America. And you just see a different side of the world. But when you travel together, you realize, kind of like you said, you just figure out ways to get things done, to how to get through things. And you do it as a unit, as a family. And so I'm guessing as you guys were doing this, it didn't go rosy. Like you said, the project manager quit halfway through and all these other things. So I would imagine you guys, and maybe you were so young, you didn't realize it, but I'm sure there's things that will come back later on in life that you're like, yeah, I kind of remember that now. Anything pop to mind over that?
So a couple things. First, something that I loved is that my family, we don't fight. And so it's interesting as I've grown older, I see how different people's family dynamic is. And looking back on the 50, I remember I fought with my sister one time on like the last day because it had been like a long time all living together. But it really made me appreciate my family and how well we get along. And then the second part of that, of the 50, is this also goes with the Conquer 100, but the ripple effect and how kind people are. And it was amazing that on the 50, people would come from across the state because we were in their state, and they would bring us food and they would offer us places to shower, and they'd say, oh my gosh, my friend's a chiropractor, let me come adjust you guys. Someone brought us like 10 boxes of Little Debbie's, and we just ate those for days. And so it was so amazing to see the kindness that people that people took it upon themselves. Right. And as I get older, it's interesting to see how common and uncommon that is. And it just meant a lot to us during both of those projects.
Well, let me ask you. It makes
me want to do that for others.
Sorry. Let me, one of my questions is of this business, of this industry, of everything that you're doing and you're kind of getting into this, what is something, and I hate to use the word hate, but what is something that you dislike about the business, not of the business of the Iron Cowboy, but the business model that you're in this environment? Is there something that you're like, man, I wish it wasn't this way?
Yes, there are. Let me think about how to articulate this really quick. I feel like people are so set in their ways, and they get frustrated when you don't want to do something their way.
Give me an example.
So, for an example,
you have to name names. You don't have to name names. Yeah, I'm just curious.
Someone wanted us. I hope this person never hears this podcast, but I don't know. Okay. So they want us to design jerseys for the Conquer 100 a certain way. I asked for an obnoxious wing. We have two wingmen, Casey and Aaron, and they're so obnoxious. Like, there's obnoxious, and then there's the wingmen. And they were the guys that kind of took care of my dad while he was out on the bike, on the run. And I asked for an obnoxious wingman jersey, and I sent him a picture, and I said, put this picture of them on it. And this wasn't our kit company. I love the kit company. This was someone separate that was designing the jerseys. Right. And they sent me a black jersey that had the word wingman on it in white. And I was so frustrated. I was nice. I was just like, hey, I asked you to put this picture on it. Can we adjust? And then before that, we had said, these are the colors we like. Triathletes, they wear bright colors. They want to be seen on the road. Right. We want a bright pink, we want a bright orange, a bright yellow. and they came back with this like this army green and this dark blue. And so we fought them on that so much. And then with the wingman thing, after that happened, they quit and they're like, you just hate all of our ideas, this and this. And from my perspective, I'm thinking, well, you're designing this for us for our project. Right. Why do we have to design them with the color scheme that you want, just right. as some design team, right? And so that was really frustrating, because I didn't understand, like, it was our project. Why did we have to do it their way, you know?
Yeah, that's probably, I would imagine, and this is in any business I've learned, I think a lot of that is just people's egos and pride, and them not wanting to be told what to do, because we all think we're the smartest, which we're not, but we think we have the best ideas. What do you want your dad to be most known for? You know, look, he won he did the Guinness Book of World Records, and he's known for that. But is that, if you were to say my dad, the legacy, what is that to you? Maybe he's not there yet, but what would you say you want people to say about your dad that you want him to be known most about?
I want them to say, he empowered me to change. He empowered me to become better. There was a family on the Conquer 100, and the mother, she was bedridden and so depressed. And then once my dad started the Conquer 100, they came out in a costume every day, just for something fun for my dad to look forward to. Just some random costume on the trail. They were dancing. They have signs that had a pun that was their costume. And she's been great since. Like, that totally changed her life.
Wow.
And it's amazing. And when I go, there's people that have said, I was going to commit suicide, and then I remember, then you got in the pool that day, and I knew that you were going to try that day, so I could. And I go to his presentations, and people are crying, and he has a standing ovation guarantee, because people always just do a standing ovation. And I love that him doing some dumb project is like, because us, we're like, why did we do that? That was so dumb. Not really, but like, who let us do that, you know? Right. And so it's really cool to see how much that's impacting people. And it's amazing, because people are always like, oh, is it so cool having your dad? And I'm like, well, he was my dad first, you know? Yeah. But it's really eye-opening to see how amazing it is for other people.
The impact he's putting on people out there that don't even know him, and he's changing their lives, and he's never even met them, and they've just watched the Netflix series and all that. So that I would agree, that is a cool thing. And you want to be known for something, that would be something definitely of value to be known for. All right, Lucy, I have one last question for you, and I want to be respectful of your time. Where do you see the legacy of the business of Iron Cowboy under your command, under your control? Where do you see it going? What kind of revenue numbers? Where do you see this thing going if you could just like rip everything off and go full throttle with what Lucy wants to do with the business? What does it look like?
That's a good question.
That's why I asked.
Yes, that's a good question. I would say I would definitely say, with the courses and with helping people, we want to do memberships, and okay, this is a good way to put it. I just want it to turn into a huge community of people that want to be better, because we want to do like memberships and groups and stuff of people that just feel safe in the community. Like, they can talk to people in the community. Like, if they have a worry or a question, that is the place that people come to, and that they want to be, and where they can be empowered, I guess.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Look, being impactful and changing lives there's no way to put a money number on it. I mean, look, the money's going to come. That's obvious. When you have something people want, and they will, that's how you're remunerated, you monetize it. But I definitely think adding the value in what your dad's doing and what you're doing, I think is great. And I think that it goes beyond money, right? You guys are changing lives. You guys are making a difference in people that people couldn't walk, and now they're making the difference to do it, because they're like, well, geez, this guy did it. I could at least walk a mile, Exactly. And so I think it's those things that he's doing. And I completely agree. I think mindset is a huge, I think it's a challenge for most people because of the social media and all that's out there
Yeah.
that gives people an excuse not to try harder, because everybody likes, they want the pat on the back and be told it's okay. But at some point, I don't think it is. I think at some point, you've got to get up and walk. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what as
Something.
humans, we're made to do stuff, and we're not made to sit around and, be on our phones and staring at a screen all day. And I think that, what your dad's doing of getting people out there and doing that kind of stuff, I think is great. So I definitely commend you on doing that. And I think that you guys are going to make an impact more so than you have. I mean, I'm, a fan of your dad's and you now, because I got to meet you, but I think what you guys are doing is phenomenal. And I hope you guys keep going and keep changing lives, and it goes into the mindset, and you can use that to change even more lives of people that never even thought of doing a triathlon. And maybe they'll think about it and go, you know what, maybe
Yeah.
I could do it. And I think that's the whole thing. I think just getting someone to say maybe, and getting them to just all of a sudden go, you know what, maybe it's something I could put on the radar. And that's where it starts. It starts as a thought in your mind. And that's what you guys are doing. So I would say congratulations to you and your dad and your family. You guys are doing amazing things and changing a lot of lives, and you guys should be proud of that.
Thank you. Never say never, right?
Never say never. So Lucy, if they want to get a hold of you and learn more about the courses, and we'll have it in the show notes for everyone, but how could they find out what you guys are doing?
So we have a website, ironcowboy.com. We have Instagram, Iron Cowboy James. My personal Instagram it's Lucy Jane, but it's spelled weird. We can put it in the show notes.
Sure.
So if you have like direct questions for me, you can reach out there. My email is lucy@ironcowboy.com. But the Iron Cowboy does do his own DMs. So if you want to get a hold of him, just DM him.
Awesome. All right, I will. Well, Lucy, thank you for being on today. I appreciate your time and taking time out of your day. You're obviously busy with school and running your dad's business. So, congratulations on everything. And I look forward to seeing more from you guys. And maybe, you never know, we may be on the same stage together with your dad one day.
Yeah,
never know what could happen. So
yeah.
Thank you for your time. And for everybody watching High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg, thank you so much. And remember, don't forget to like, share, comment, let everyone know. Lucy is definitely someone you want to watch for on the radar, because she is going to be doing some amazing things for her dad. And you want to make sure that you're following her track and her trajectory. So thank you so much on High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg, and we will see you all next week. Bye-bye.